Meanwhile, Leora was trying to sort out his own feelings. What the? I had no idea she was interested in me like that. Am I misinterpreting? Kind of hard to misinterpret a kiss like that. It's a possibility, but I don't think so. So, am I interested? He saw her face fall and realized she was probably taking hesitation as a rejection. Damn, gotta work it out this fast. So, is it. Wait, no. Is it bestiality? She's at least as smart as I am, smarter than a lot of humans I've known. Even thinking about it about bestiality is insulting to her, and I respect her too much for that. No, just respect her, let's be honest here. I love her too much for that. He knew Rainbow wasn't actually a horse, though she superficially resembled one. There was plenty of differences, though, besides her own obvious sapience. And, well, the wings. No vertebrae on Earth had a third limb griddle. Her head and mouth was structured totally different for one, with a shorter, narrower muzzle, larger eyes, stereoscopic vision, and a much larger brain cavity, and a more human lip structure than a terrestrial equine. Even her hooves were different, softer and more flexible than a Tyran's horse, as he feel right now, with her hoof resting on his chest, and boasting with a limited grasping capability that no horse had ever had. So, she's definitely not an animal, but she's definitely not a human either. So, would it be Xenophilia, right? Am I a xenophile? He hadn't thought so, but wait. Am I looking at this the wrong way? I get along with her better than I have gotten along with anybody. So she was human, I'd totally be all over her right now, but I'm gonna turn her down because of the way she looks. Put that way, hell no. I hate guys who do that. Besides, she's kinda pretty in her own way. Unable to hear the thoughts shouting rapidly through the human's mind, Rainbow Dash ducked her head and let out a small broken heart noise. The human felt her muscles shift and she got ready to get up, and caught her forehoof gently in his free hand. Dash, wait a sec. Nah, I'm okay. I've been turned on before. I'm used to it, she said thickly. Tears were welling in her eyes. Celestia's sisters, I was hoping that this time would be different. I even tried waiting as long as I could, a couple of months. Not that it helped. I think it makes it hurt more, actually. Dash, I'm not turning you down. You surprised me. I had no idea you were, interested in me. Leroy tried to catch her eye, but she kept her head down, refusing to look at him. He rubbed the underside of her hoof with his thumb. My brain just got a little scrambled, and it took me a bit to reassemble it. That's all. Can I ask you something? You didn't know? Despite her attempts to be contrary, she felt a tiny spark of hope kindle in her heart. Oh, Rainbow, don't do that. You know better. It'll just hurt more, and it gives you just the just friend speech. She meant to get up, to put some space between them so the rejection would be a hurt, a tiny less, but the gesture of his thumb stopped her. It was the small thing, but it felt curiously intimate, so she paused. How could you not know? Rarity and Applejack have been teasing me about it for weeks that I have over my crush. Well, crap, you asshole. Shouldn't you have asked somebody else, dumbass? You know I'm still having trouble reading pony body language, right? Wait, no, that's the wrong thing to say, you idiot. Hold it, scratch that. Truth is, I'm kinda dumb. I'm really bad at noticing things like this, and I figured that you were just treating me like one of your really close friends. I didn't really have many back at home, and I don't know how your friends could treat the close friends here besides. He reached up with his arm that he had wrapped around her shoulders and awkwardly wiped some of the tears away. Nah, I'm the dumb one. she choked out. We were really close friends, and I was just kinda hoping that we could get a little bit more. She let out a strangled laugh. Wrecked that, didn't I? She was trying not to cry. She was trying really hard. Leroy started to say something, but Rainbow cut him off. Ask what you want to know, then I'll leave you alone. Leroy was silent for a second, holding her close. Finally he spoke. Oh Dash, I didn't mean to hurt you, honestly. You didn't wreck anything. Another strangled laugh. You didn't. I was just... You're going to ask me, why me? Why would you be romantically interested in a being like odd-looking alien? Yeah, he apparently still wanted to be friends. She tried, but she didn't know if he could stick after him after being rejected. Why you? I don't know, maybe because your personality clicked with mine like no one else ever has, she said bitterly. Maybe it's because I never had a closer friend in my whole life. Maybe it's because we had so much fun together that I wanted to keep you around for some more. And yeah, I'm not supposed to say it, but you got pretty eyes and nice flanks. Even, not being a pony. I know it's sexist and stuff, but I'm supposed to not say stuff like that. And I know it's hypocritical because I'm not much to look at, but... She trailed off, unable to speak past her knot in the throat. Tears were welling down again despite her best efforts. His embrace tightened and she swallowed, forcing her voice to work again before he could answer back. And yeah, I know I'm kind of a freak, and I've gotten along pretty well with non-ponies like Gilda and the Buffaloes, so I guess it's kind of a natural progression to fall in love with. Her voice failed again, and she choked in sobs. She buried her face in his chest, hating herself for doing that. Oh Dash, Leroy said, again stroking her mane gently. Whoever told you that you weren't much to look at? The question of the tone asked her and fanned over a tiny ember of hope, but she worked to dose it.
I'm a skinny, garnish, over-muscled freak,
she said, mumbling into her chest. He looked around her carefully, trying to see what's in another species' eyes. Yeah, she was really muscular, but she had the lean, toned muscles of a serious athlete, and she'd somehow managed to be avoiding overworking one part of her body too much. The muscles were pretty all evenly developed. He always found her built to be strikingly impressive, actually. And yeah, there was a little on the slender side compared to other mares he'd seen in Ponyville. Especially in the hunches, mostly because very little body fat thanks to her active lifestyle. Oh wait, what she's thinking about? Maybe they judge flanks that we judge breasts, and she's kind of flat? I take the issue with that statement, Leroy said calmly. Rainbow looked, eyes red-rimmed with hatred, seeing as his normally brash, cocky friend looked heart-strict like this. And he cursed himself again for causing it. Dumbass! Maybe you could still fix it, though. Let's start with skinny, shall we? I don't think that the label is accurate. Dash started to choke out a reply, but the human put one finger on her lips to silence her. Hold on now. I got a bit of fair to say, so just let me talk, okay? The Pegasus blinked in giving a slightly jerking nod. That was a very negative sounding word, and it also implies that one applied to the skin is just over bone. He trailed a finger along the line of the muscle in one foreleg, following by the gesture by poking her in the lower shoulder, where her foreleg was attached. Looks to me you got plenty of skin in between the bone, so don't think yourself of skinny applies. Let's go with slender instead. It doesn't sound quite so negative, and I personally prefer slender over chunky. Rainbow laughed. Chunky? Sure. Leroy raised an eyebrow. If they're gonna be jerks and call you skinny, I don't think that they would be in a line for us to be jerks and call them chunky in return. She laughed again. Her laughter still was slightly strangled at the edge of it. But he liked the sound better a lot than sobs. So let's call you Slender instead, and avoid being jerks. That's okay? I guess so. Great. He gave a hammy grin and a thumbs up, and despite herself, she laughed again, more easily this time. Okay, I'm gonna skip garnished for now, but I'll get back to it, so let's head over muscled. The human trailed a finger down the Pegasus' side and flank, making her shiver slightly. No offense meant, but I don't think you ponies know what over-muscled actually looks like. I seen humans that were over-muscled. He lifted his free arm, releasing her hoof and flexing to show the modest bicep. See this? What, your arm? Dash was a bit confused. The muscle on my upper arm. She nodded a bit slowly, still confused. The human's chest and arms were pretty muscular by pony standards, though not excessively for so far as a stallion. His chest and shoulders were very broad though, even more than Big Macintosh's. She found it appealing, and it certainly made a nice place to rest her head. At her nod, he lowered his arm and took a forehoof in his hand again. Once again, she found that odd gesture to be curiously comforting. Picture that, except for 4 or 5 times as thick. Rainbow made a disbelieving noise. The human took that as a huge relief. That was closer to her normal self than she'd had been since. He had this too. Too dumb to breathe the moment, and her hurt feelings so badly. She was recovering slowly, but at least she was recovering. Now if she only listened. I'm serious. When humans bulk up, they really get ridiculously huge. Somebody who is like my height would have half again, and what I do easy. The neck disappears and cords the muscle, and the arms and the chest would go so thick that it would actually impair their movement. It's called muscle bound, and it takes a directive effort to achieve. Gross. You're not gonna get like that, are you? She blinked at him. Not that it matters. Whoops. Had that thought off to pass. Leroy scoffed. No way. Not only it requires a specialized diet that I can't regularly get here. Let's just skate on what the diet is consistent of. Dash isn't bothered me by eating meat, but still, most humans require particularly drugs to achieve that effect. Not to mention, I am way too lazy. Rainbow tilted her head at him, then obstinately turned to look back at the village green where they spent most of their hours running full tilt at the game of football. He caught the look, as he was sure it was supposed to. The occasional ball game is nothing compared to a lifetime effort of a bodybuilder requires. Don't worry, I'm not going to be turned into a hideous, monstrous Hulk. I may put on a bit more than this, but not much. But we aren't gonna get talking about that, are we? Dash blinked and glanced down at her body with a slightly ashamed look. Aha! The human scolded. Now it's time for me to make my point. I was building up to. Didn't we agree that you were slender? She looked at him suspiciously already, suspecting where he was heading. Slender is kind of certainly mutually exclusive over muscle, isn't it? You certainly aren't bulging with much muscle. You haven't been having trouble, on the contrary. You're generally quite graceful. So let's use athletic instead. Now for garnish. You certainly don't boast quite about having a striking color scheme. He ran his fingers through her mane again. But it's not really clashing. And I, for one, think it's quite pretty. I really think whoever calls you Garnish is just monochrome and jealous. So, 2 again, avoid being jerks by calling somebody else monochrome. He gave an exaggerated wink and she giggled despite herself. Let's call you colorful instead. And finally, there's freak. I don't like that word. It's just a nasty way of saying unusual. Which you certainly are. You stand out from the crowd, and it's one of those things I always liked and admired about you. So, he said with a dramatic flourish, instead of skinny, garnish, over-muscled freak, we've gotten someone who's slender, athletic, colorful, and unusual. I like that a lot better, don't you? Dash smiled at him with a real warmth. Yeah, I do. Thanks, Lero. Her chest felt a little less hollow, though it was still aching and her eyes still stung. Shoot, now I'm never gonna get rid of that crush. And I'd just been waiting a little longer, or maybe talk him into some... At least we can really still be friends. I think that's probably the nicest way anyone ever turned me down. You're a good guy. Turned you... Wow, you're stubborn. The Pegasus blinked with a tiny ember of hope flaring again. Well, actions speak louder than words, especially you, he winked. So I guess it's time for the contingency plan. Rainbow felt the arm looped around her shoulders, and she thought for a second that he was letting her up. Though at this point, she kinda wanted to stay where she was at the moment. She was surprised to feel his hand against the back of her neck, gently pulling her head towards his. What contingency plan? She managed to say before Lero interrupted her by leaning in, returning the earlier kiss. Now, it was her turn to stiffen with surprise. Rose-colored eyes were going wide, and the wings twitched as she felt the blush of her lips against her own. What the? She cast back over the conversation they just had, and realization finally dawned. I really did just surprise him. He wasn't just saying that. Tiny embers she'd been trying to crush caught on fire, roaring to life in the glorious blaze and filling the tiny hollow in the space, bursting. He wasn't just saying that. Dash's heart sped up as she felt the tip of Leroy's tongue brushing against her lips. She opened them, meeting the tip of his tongue with her own, sliding them lightly over one another. She'd only been ever kissed one stallion like that before, an experience that had been ruined when she found out he'd been only doing that because he'd lost a bet. This time was so different. Though she felt tears welling in her eyes that had nothing to do whatsoever with its sadness. Her wings extended as she sank into the kiss, sliding her tongue past his own into his mouth. This was difficult too. His tongue was shorter and broader than hers, and he wasn't really able to follow suit, settling instead of caressing her tongue while she ran it across his teeth. More differences here. His front teeth was a bit smaller than the last ones that she felt, and she could feel tiny serrations, like a miniature bread knife that hadn't been present on a colt. Past those was a set of delicately pointed sharp teeth, and she could tell that was carefully keeping them apart so that wouldn't accidentally bite her. Past those were jagged, sharp shapes that she could mash together with his own jaws closed. She knew he had the flat, grinding teeth like she did, but she couldn't find them. They must have been backer and far more into his mouth. They'd talked about his differences of diet, meant that he had a different teeth. But this feeling drove it home in a far more real manner. He was very different, and she found that exciting. Instead of trying to get further back, she lingered in the delicate parts of his canines. The sharp feeling lent the kiss to a delicious hint of slight danger, though she knew full well it was an illusion. Illusion or not, the feeling was exhilarating, and she felt her wings stiffen further as they pressed themselves closer to his body in a way she wouldn't normally have been able to with a stallion. That extra coolness added to the exciting strangeness of the experience. Her breathing had sped up, as did the humans, and she felt a wonderful, tingly sensation as their breath mixed in their mouths. It couldn't last forever though it felt as a moment like it could. They finally broke contact, leaning back from one another and breathing hard. Rainbow's rosy eyes were bright with happiness and shining their unshed tears, while Leroy's hazel irises were slightly glazed. He finally said, blinking. Wow, that was intense. Dash laughed breathlessly with a huge smile on her face. That was awesome! Yeah, he answered with a grin spreading across his own conscience. Not going to argue there, I am gonna ask. Was the thing with the teeth a normal deal for you folks? The Pegasus felt about half a heartbeat worthy before Leroy's expression wiped it away. Since her heart still hadn't slowed down as much, this was a blessedly short period of time. Yeah, it's pretty normal for a kiss like that. Not that I'm complaining, he said quickly, but I'm totally not complaining. She laughed again merrily. You sound like a mere word that she'd make her stallion mad. He looked confused at the moment, then brushed it aside. Regardless, we've got to do that more often. Rainbow nodded vigorously. She couldn't remember ever feeling this happy. She was a little surprised her heart hadn't burst or something. We could do it again right now. You know, if you feel like it. Sounds like a good plan to me. The two grinned, looking each other in the eye. It turned out to be a pretty good day.